So here's a mystery. Pakistan is doing great with the coronavirus, despite not really having much in terms of, modern medical stuff. So why is Pakistan doing so well relative to other countries? And does that mean that their leadership is extra good? Because you're going to see people say, oh, the countries that did right, they've got better leadership. And I told you from the start, nope. Leadership might be the least important variable. Because most of the leaders were just doing what the experts told them to do, and most of the experts were telling them similar stuff. But they're getting wildly different outcomes. If you get wildly different outcomes, and the leaders are largely doing the same basic stuff, that kind of tells you that leadership isn't the thing that is the main variable. There's something else. And with Pakistan, it remains a mystery. They actually don't know why they're doing so well. So I did a little digging in, and some of you are a little ahead of me in the comments. I looked at the obesity rates for different countries. And I thought, well, I'll just compare some of the big countries that we talk about. Let's say Germany and the United States. So the United States has 36% obesity. 36% of adult Americans, or is it all Americans? I don't know, probably adults, but 36% are obese or overweight. We rank 12th, so we're in the top 12, and of 191 countries. So out of 191 countries, we're in the top 12 of fatness. Now we know that obesity is one of the biggest comorbidities. So all things being equal, if we had the best president ever, how should we do compared to, say, Germany, that has 22%? Now, the difference between 22% obesity and 36, that's a big difference. That's a big difference. So Germany is ranked 79th in obesity. We're ranked 12th. They're ranked all the way down in 79th. So if Germany and the United States did exactly the same capable job, what would be the outcome? Well, the outcome should be, if we did just as good leadership both ways, we would have way more deaths in the United States because we're fatter. Does anybody disagree with that? I feel like that's just a plain statement of the obvious. Then I looked at the other comorbidity, if I could call it that. I shouldn't call it that because somebody's going to say that sounds racist. But since black Americans are way disproportionately affected, the next question you'd ask is, how many black people live in Germany? How many black people live in the United States? And see if there's any difference. Because if they had the same amount of black people, that would be, at least that variable would be somewhat controlled, and you could say, oh, the difference might be the obesity and maybe a little leadership, but it has nothing to do with the number of black people who live there, even though we know black people get, far more hit by the coronavirus because they have the same amount. Do they have the same amount? Well, the United States has 13%, and Germany has rounds to 0. I think so I had a little trouble finding the exact number, but Germany has fewer than 2 million black Germans, and in the United States is 13% times 300 X million, 40, 50 million. So we've got 40 or 50 million black citizens who are, the most at risk, and Germany has like less than 2 million. How do we not run the numbers and normalize for this? Let me say it as clearly as possible. Anybody who says to you, well, Germany did well and the United States didn't, therefore leadership is different, is just an idiot. That's really dumb. Because these gigantic variables that we do know matter, we do know that age matters, we do know that obesity matters, we do know that the quality of the healthcare matters. A lot of these things matter. Let's go further. Would you think that if it's true, oh, and by the way, let's talk about obesity some more. So where is China on the list of obesity, or Japan? Would you agree that China and Japan are two populated, dense countries in which they seem to be getting credit for doing a good job of getting on top of the coronavirus? And in Japan especially, they've got a lot of older people, and they still did a good job. Where did they rank on obesity? And of 191, China is 169th. They're toward the bottom. Only 6% of Chinese citizens are obese, compared to 36% in the United States. 6 times more. How many black people live in China? Not a lot. Not a lot. That's got to be a variable. How about Japan? Japan ranks 185th out of 191 countries on obesity. 4% of Japanese citizens are obese. 4%. Again, United States, 36%. All right, but now let's look at the number of black residents. So I ranked the various countries by the number of black residents. This is not every country, and I think I don't have Africa in here, because Africa has a unique characteristic, a couple of unique characteristics. One is that they're really young. Africa is a super young country, so that makes a difference. But also, we don't know if their record keeping is telling us what's going on there. So you've heard that Brazil has one of the worst death rates, right? And they also have one of the biggest black populations. So Brazil has lots of black people who live there and the highest mortality. Now, some of these numbers may need to be updated a week or two, but these are relatively good. Next highest on the list is the United States, and they're right behind Brazil for their death rate. So Brazil and the United States have the most black people of, outside of Africa, I think, and also the biggest death rate. Coincidence? Who knows? Now, Haiti is next, and they've got almost none, and Jamaica is on the list of the top 10, and they have almost no death rate, and Venezuela shows as almost no death rate. So those are countries with a large black population outside of Africa that have almost no deaths. But they also have in common that their record keeping is very suspect. Venezuela, Haiti, and Jamaica. Don't quite know what's going on in those places, but at least in the cases of Haiti and Jamaica, you've got an island, so we know that being on an island helps. All right, so you take those exceptions out. What are the other countries that have large black populations outside of Africa? Colombia, and it's right at the top of the death list. Here's another one, France. France is way high on the list of deaths per 100,000. How about the UK? Very high black population, for something outside of Africa. Very high death rate. How about Mexico? Mexico has a very large black population for outside of Africa. Very high death rate. How about Peru? Very high death rate. Lots of black citizens. How about Canada? Not so bad, but Canada is not as dense, I would think. So Canada might be a special case. Anyway, here's the thing. If anybody ever tells you this country did better than this country with the coronavirus, and they don't normalize it by doing some actual math to adjust for the obesity, the age, and the percentage of black citizens who live there who get hit the hardest, if you don't adjust for those things and you just say, oh, Canada is doing better than New Zealand, you are an idiot. You're an idiot. You are so dumb that you should not be talking about anything in public. You should only mumble to yourself behind your mask so nobody can hear you talk. Have I made that point? Is there anybody here who disagrees with me that if you haven't adjusted for those gigantic variables, trying to say if it was the leadership that made the difference is stupid. Super, super stupid.